My Hero Academia is one of the greatest anime / manga to appear in shonen history, yet one of the biggest complaints is the main character. Everyone seems to be hating on Deku. Why do you ask? Well, let's go over the complaints. Deku's such a crybaby. He never stands up for himself. Oh my god, he doesn't deserve one for all. Mirio should have gotten one for all. He's nothing compared to All Might. Yeah, I'm gonna be debunking all of this today. Like I said before, one of the biggest complaints about Deku is the fact that he cries too much. Which isn't wrong, he does tend to cry quite a bit throughout the series and the manga. But I think people forget the fact that he is a 14/15-year-old boy. You cannot expect a child to be as brave and as confident as All Might himself. You could use the argument that Bakugo and Todoroki don't act the way that Deku does, and they're the same age as him. But the difference is the fact that they were both groomed as prodigies. They both recognized the fact that they had amazing quirks and that they were born to be amazing heroes, because Bakugo was already a prodigy at combat and Todoroki was raised by Endeavor, who was brutally training him every day for almost all his life. So of course they're going to be a little more comfortable with the situations that they're put in, as compared to Deku, who has hardly ever been in any threatening situation prior to attending UA. One point is the fact that Deku grew up quirkless. And if you grow up quirkless in a world of heroes and villains where you practically need a quirk to participate in the thing that he wanted to do, which was hero work, obviously, but without a quirk, that was essentially impossible. It's the same scenario to say if someone who was prone to knee injuries wanted to join the NBA. That would be practically impossible to achieve if you're constantly injuring your knee in a sport that heavily relies on knee pressure, from jumping to running, etc., etc. In the world of My Hero Academia, being quirkless would result into not being able to be a hero at all, figuring that the world that they live in placed laws to say that if you do not have a quirk, you could not become a hero. So that if Deku per se wanted to become a hero even without a quirk, he wouldn't get his license to be a hero at all, making it illegal, which would classify him as a vigilante, which is not what Deku wants to be at all, considering he has a morally good heart. Man, Deku just can't get a break. Without having a quirk, it's hard to build up any self-confidence in yourself, considering that his dream was basically trashed on by everybody, by someone that we know, and everybody else in his school. With Deku being constantly bullied by yeah, I'm looking at you, boy. It's hard for him to really gain his self-confidence. Even in real life, if someone's being bullied almost every day, their confidence is really low, especially when they have no way to defend themselves. Let's say the kid is skinny and then the guy who keeps bullying him is just a naturally strong kid. It's really hard to really become strong-hearted and strong-willed when you're constantly being put down every day. Yeah, I'm still holding a grudge on you, boy. My next point is going to be people complaining that Deku does not deserve one for all, which makes 0 sense. A large part of why people say this is because of the fact that they've been introduced to Mirio, which will be onto my next point, but first let me explain why Deku does deserve one for all and why he is a definitive hero. The first time we even come across Deku, he's literally trying to save the life of the guy who bullies him almost every day. He felt the pain that he went through when that sludge monster was basically shoving himself in his mouth. Gross. But he understood his pain and fear. Regardless of whatever feelings he had towards him, he understood he needed to save him. He needed saving, and he just couldn't help himself and literally just ran towards that villain, knowing what he could do to him. And he had no quirk. He literally had no defense against him, yet he still ran in there and saved the guy who bullies him every day. Next time we see Deku's hero come out of him is during the exam. Ochaku was in danger, and Deku, knowing that the big robot that was going to crush her was worth 0 points. No matter what, his first instinct was to go and save her, knowing that he had 0 points, and if he would have took out that robot, he would have gotten 0 points. He didn't care, he still wanted to save her no matter what. Or how about the fact that when Deku and Todoroki were on a one-on-one, Deku sought out to help Todoroki's internal feelings and problems as a person, instead of actually focusing on the fight. He told him to fight at his 100%. He doesn't care about his dad. Stop focusing on your father because that power is yours. He doesn't care. He wanted to help Todoroki in that moment. Even All Might saw that. Why would you do that in a 1v1 and you're supposed to come out on top? But Deku didn't care. He said, nah, I want to help this guy. He's clearly in pain. And my natural instinct is to help him. Even with the fight with Muscular, Deku just could not push through when it came down to himself. He was already asking for forgiveness from his mom and All Might and that he was sorry. He was almost beaten. When he heard Koda scream in fear, that's when Deku just couldn't take it anymore, and he pushed through everything that Muscular had just put down on him. He did not care. He pushed through all of it when it came down to saving Koda over himself. Now, I would go into everything about Eri, but that leads into my next point, which is Mirio deserves one for all over Deku, which in my opinion isn't true. Mirio is said to be one of the greatest heroes of their time. Even Aizawa claims that if it were up to him, he would have definitely been number one, which is a huge compliment coming from Aizawa, considering of how much of a hard ass he is. And I gotta say, Mirio definitely does show why he's thought of in that way. Even All Might wanted Mirio to become the successor to One For All. That is, until he met our boy. The guy really does show huge potential. He took on the entire class of 1A and just obliterated all of them without hardly any effort. He even has a likable personality. He's always upbeat, he's always smiling. His just character traits are just very positive and All Might-like, I would say. He definitely wasn't selfish, because when it came down to saving Eri in the end with the fight with Overhaul, he did everything he possibly could to save that little girl. I mean, hell, he even sacrificed his own quirk just to make sure that she got out of there alive, which is definitely heroic. But in the end, there is one moment that truly separates Deku and Mirio from each other, and it is the moment when Eri hangs on to Deku, pleading for her not to let go and for her not to return to Overhaul. While Deku was contemplating and asking questions if she was okay, Mirio was questioning himself. Why is Deku continuously ruining this plan? You can just let her go and we'll come back later. But that's not what was going through Deku's head. Deku didn't care about what the plan was. Obviously he wanted to catch Overhaul, but his main concern was getting this girl in safety because he could hear the fear and pain in her voice, and he said screw the plan, and straight up asked Overhaul, what are you doing to this little girl? Deku as a character just could not accept and just to leave this little girl on her own. He just did not want to accept that. He just couldn't. Mirio was already ready to give her up, but Deku, no, he wasn't. All he wanted was to save her. I feel like even the creator of the show wanted to display in that very moment the difference between Deku and Mirio and why All Might ended up choosing Deku instead. And yeah, you could say Mirio grew up just like Deku because Mirio grew up with a very difficult quirk to master, but at the end of the day, he had a quirk. A very OP one if you ask me. Anyone in the right mind would have known that a quirk that lets you phase through anything would basically be OP. So he already had something to strive for. He knew he had something going for him, while Deku, I mean, as I said earlier, he really did not. So hopefully I was able to shift your mind about how you feel about Deku and how he really did deserve One For All. And just because he acts all scary and whatnot doesn't mean he has time to grow, especially because he's just a young boy. So we still have much to see from him. In the manga, he's already starting to flesh out as a hero in just a year. That, in my opinion, a lot of growth that he's shown in just over a year is a lot compared to most people nowadays. But anyways, I digress. I hope you all respect Deku more because he truly is a great hero and a great character. And more, he's becoming more likable in my opinion and becoming way more of a hero. Just like All Might.